So for those of you who know me, you know that I have my projects laying around the house. And this old thing is definitely one of my more unique finds. I found this bike in one of my friend's barns, and he decided to just gift it to me because they didn't really have a use for it. This is my 1974 Zundapp Rickman, and you're probably wondering, what the heck is a Zundapp? Zundapp was a German motorcycle company and small engine company, founded in 1917, and they ran all the way up until 1984. Most notable were their early bikes from the World War II era, though they also had some involvement in some microcars. Now, the Rickman came to be a thing when the legendary Frame Company, English, sought a partnership with three motor companies for their line of sport MXers and Enduros: Hodaka, Zundapp, and Montesa. This would be in around the 1970s. So if you ordered a 100cc Rickman, you got yourself a Hodaka power plant. The 125 was the Zundapp, and the Montesa was the 250. Now, when I first found this bike, I did the best I could to try and get it running. I spent days tirelessly working on this thing, but unfortunately, the tired old Zundapp power plant was just too far gone. When I pulled the head, the first thing that happened was the piston ring had snapped, and it was a unique style ring. I went on the internet searching for it, and I couldn't find anything. So I ended up having to re-engineer some of the bike. I got the piston head cut to fit a different style of ring, and I thought that I would be able to save it. And I spent more time than anything else taking that carburetor apart and popping the head off and putting it back on, but ultimately the best I would be able to get was a sputter out of the bike, and that was it. Since parts were non-existent, all seemed hopeless, so I closed the door on the bike and let it sit for several years. Until I found someone on eBay that had almost everything I needed for the Zundapp. This guy seems to deal in a lot of unique bikes and classic things like that, so I was really surprised to see how much he had. New old stock parts, piston rings, gaskets. He even has some of the parts to convert the bike to an Enduro, and I may consider doing that. And so the project's reborn, and there's going to be a heck of a lot of work ahead of me. But let's see if we can save something lost to time. Now, obviously these kinds of projects have their long lists of problems that occur along the way. But the two main problems that we're going to be concentrating on are the cylinder and the transmission. Now, the cylinder has an issue that I can't really do anything about. I have to send it off to be worked on, so in the future here we'll be doing that, and that's that it needs to be bored out and replated. The plating on the inside has been rubbing off. But what I can concentrate on is the transmission. So the shifter spindle sits on a little pin, and the pin has busted out. Now, this is an aluminum case, so there's not really anything I can do. I don't really know any welders that can work on anything like that, so the quickest and simplest solution was to buy another case. And basically that's what I did. So we're going to be replacing that case, and it's already partially torn down, my engine is, so I apologize to those of you who are watching this video hoping to get a full teardown. You won't be getting that, sorry. But luckily, the bits that I won't be showing you aren't really that hard to figure out. They're quite simple. I mean, I didn't even need a book to do it, so, you know. Alright, so here's the project at hand. And as you can see, this area right here don't look factory original. That definitely looks like it's been messed with. You can see the pin is kind of on a downward angle, broken, and obviously that's not right. This is what it's supposed to look like on the inside here. See? So yeah, that's what we're going to be trying to replace. We basically got to replace this whole right side case. Okay. All right. Stator removed. think it's turning. Might be messing up that piston just a little bit, but hopefully not. Felt like it was turning. Yeah, it's turning. And it is indeed a counter threaded nut. Look at that. There's a special puller for pulling this gear off the crankshaft, which I didn't have. So I had to get a little bit creative. First I tried a C-clamp and a chisel, and I was able to move it a little bit, but not quite enough. And ultimately I ended up using the flywheel wrench as a puller, and it worked quite well. There we go! Enough force to bend a C-clamp, but not enough force to stop that amount of leverage. There we go. Turns out that tool was actually useful after all. So yeah, they use ball bearings for keys, I guess. You can see the ball bearing right there. I guess it removes fairly easily. You just turn back and forward and pull. Yep, and that was easy, and that's it. There we go. I'll use that to hold it from moving, and I think that this is a standard regular threaded nut. Yep. Oh wow, that was like butter. Alright, I encountered a problem here. So these little circlip pins that hold the wrist pin in place, which we need to drive out one of the sides of the piston, these little pins that hold the main pin here in place are supposed to have little tabs on them so that you can take pliers and kind of squeeze them inward and pull them out. Well, mine are missing them on both sides. I don't really know how that happened, considering that I remember when I took this apart the first time and I removed the piston, it wasn't that difficult. So I'm going to have to come up with some sort of way of getting those pins out. Probably going to sit there with a screwdriver and mar up the piston a little bit until I get those out. It's a good thing we don't need to reuse this piston because, I mean, if you look at it, you can see that there's, you know, damage on it. So that's part of the reason why I'm replacing it. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to have to mess around with this for a little while. Okay, I found a little groove here that happened from somebody. And looks like we got it. Oh, almost had it. It's a good thing that there's a damaged area like this so I can get these out. There we go. Yeah, these are supposed to have tabs on them, but as you can see it doesn't. And I'm starting to wonder if that's why that groove was there, is that whoever first took this apart might have put that into the piston so they could get the pin out easier. At least we got one side out. luckily I also have another one of these, so not a big deal. But that's all damaged. That's pretty corroded and has an interesting smell to it. Whew. Man, that is a weird smell out of those. It's really hard to believe too, is that it's just those two and one more right here. One more screw right here. And that's it. That's all we've got to take off to get this thing apart apparently. Not much. I've never actually gotten this far, so this will be kind of interesting. Never took the time to get it further apart than what I've already seen here. Whew. It's been a long time since that's been removed. Okay, it's ready to be separated. I guess we gotta stand it on the right hand side, and there's a certain amount of pressure I got to put on one of these shafts. Starting to separate. Supposed to apply even pressure onto two areas. There we go. There it is. This is the furthest I've ever been. That's about all the time we have for today. Everything looks pretty good on the inside here. We'll get a little closer look at everything before we go. Looks like the main bearings are in pretty good shape. The gears look like they're in really good shape. Still nice and tight, no slop in between them or anything. And once I go locate all my bearings that fell out, the rest of the bearings, like these guys down here, that's what these little cylinders are down here that fell out of the side of the motor. Once I locate everything and clean it all up, we'll call it good. So yeah, I've got a little bit more work ahead of me, but that's all the time we have for you guys for the day. So take it easy. Till next time.